Ms. Obad, you've got a very special swearing in today. Ms. Obad, I understand that you have been waiting for a while here and understood you were going to be a prosecution witness in this case. Was that your understanding?
Correct.
To this.
Okay.
This is a statement that's not,
That's
there's no
correct.
foundation for this.
That's correct.
Were you ever informed that you would be a prosecution witness in this case, Ms. Obad?
Yes, I was.
And who informed you of that?
Beth Silverman.
Okay. And in fact, Ms. Silverman called you as a prosecution witness before the grand jury in this case?
Correct.
And then thereafter, the prosecution and the law enforcement agents on the case interviewed you multiple times in this case?
Correct.
And am I correct that you also had a series of meetings with Ms. Silverman personally?
Objection, this is all a meeting.
Did you ever have any meetings and interviews with Ms. Silverman personally and alone?
Yes.
Do you know how many meetings you had with her?
One in her office and a couple on the phone.
Okay. The one you had in Ms. Silverman's office, do you recall how long that lasted?
Well, I wasn't there long, maybe 15, 20 minutes, because we walked across the street to the grand jury together.
Okay. And then on the phone, do you recall when that was?
Well, there was one that was probably close to 2 hours.
And do you remember whether that was before or after your grand jury testimony?
I don't recall.
And in the one you had with Ms. Silverman in person, did she take any notes? Did you see her taking any notes?
No.
Ms. Obad, could you tell us, we've heard your name mentioned in this trial a couple of times, could you tell us where you live and for how long?
I live in Tarzana, and I've lived there since 2011.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a literary agent. I represent writers and producers.
And how long have you been a literary agent?
30 years.
Did there come a time, Ms. Obad, that you met Fabio Sementilli and Monica Sementilli?
Yes, I did.
Could you please tell us how you came to know Fabio and Monica Sementilli?
I was walking my dog, and Fab was emptying out his car. He went to Costco, and I just stopped and talked to him because I was new in the neighborhood, and we became friendly, and then we had dinner together, all four of us.
And what year was this, Ms. Obad?
The end of 2011, beginning of 2012.
When you say you were walking your dog, did it turn out that you were neighbors with Fabio Sementilli
Yes.
and Monica?
Yes, correct.
And where was that?
In Tarzana.
Do you remember your address in Tarzana? Still live at that address?
Correct.
Okay. And did there come a time when Fabio and Monica moved to a new house?
Yes, they did.
Did you remain friends with the two of them after they moved?
Yes.
Do you remember when they moved?
I do not.
As of 2016 and 2017, could you describe for us your relationship with Fabio Sementilli?
He was a good friend. We would hang out in their backyard and talk. He would come to our house and hang out and talk. They gave me a baby shower for my child. We were all very close. Fab was there the day of the baby shower. He was just a really great guy.
How often would you personally speak with Fabio Sementilli during this time period, 2016, up until his death?
At least once a week, unless he was gone or away, because we would see each other very regularly. They came to our house, we came to theirs. Maybe I was in the area, we'd stop by. We only lived 2 miles apart when they moved.
And when you say we, Ms. Obad, Could you tell us who you are talking about?
My husband.
And with Monica Sementilli, could you please describe during 2016, 2017 through January 23rd what your relationship was with her?
We were good friends. We were like a couple. Both of us, the two of us and the two of them were very good friends. We even traveled with them one time.
In 2016, did you have an opportunity to observe in person Monica Sementilli interact with her husband Fabio?
Yes, many times.
Could you give us a description of how that came to be?
Well, we were together a lot. I remember at the end, we spent Thanksgiving together, Christmas Eve, New Year's. We were together a lot, especially at the holidays. And they were always laughing and dancing and singing, and we all were just having a great time together.
Specifically focusing you on the spring of 2016 through January of 2017. Besides holidays, could you describe how often you were specifically around Monica and Fabio, either at their home or elsewhere?
At least once a week, unless he was gone for an extended time.
Were there occasions where he was gone for an extended time?
Yeah, it might have been a weekend here or there we missed.
And when you were, say, at the Sementilli home with Monica and Fabio Sementilli during this time period, could you give us a sense of where you were together or how you were together? Was it a dinner? Was it just hanging out on an afternoon? What would it be?
It was usually always dinner, because Monica was a fabulous cook, so she would cook great dinners.
Ms. Obad, during this time period, spring of 2016 through Fabio's death in January of 2017, could you describe for us what you typically saw in terms of Fabio's interaction with Monica and Monica's interaction with Fabio?
It was all love. They were always lovey and hugging and kissing and laughing and just having a good time together.
Was there ever a time in the spring of 2016 that you noticed that Monica was doing something different than what she normally did in terms of going to a gym, working out?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that?
She was really into racquetball, and she was on some racquetball league. And then I know she had a trainer at one point because she invited me to go, and she was really into that and went a lot.
Do you know who her trainer was at the time?
I know it was a guy named Matt.
And do you know any of the people she played racquetball with?
I don't know any of them personally.
Do you know any of the employees that taught her racquetball or coached her in racquetball?
Rob Baker. I saw him one time.
The one time that you saw Rob Baker, was that before Fabio was killed or after?
After.
Going back to before Fabio was killed, in the spring, early summer of 2016, did there come a time, Ms. Obad, where you started to suspect that Monica might be having a sexual affair with someone?
Correct.
Could you please tell us about how that came to be?
I just felt it in my gut. There was nothing specific. The only thing I had noticed was when we come to each other's houses, we could literally come in our pajamas and have dinner. Like, we do not get dressed up. It's sweats, casual, just come by. And she started getting kind of dressed up, and I thought that was very odd. And I mentioned that to her.
When you say she started getting dressed up, can you place a specific month or time period where you started to notice this?
Yes, it was the end of the summer, so it was either the end of August or beginning of September.
Okay. And you said you mentioned something to her about this. Is that correct?
Yes.
What did you mention to her about this?
I said, "Are you having an affair?"
So you actually confronted her about
Yes, I
that?
did.
Where were you when you had this conversation?
We were at my house.
Okay. And were you alone with her, or was somebody else there?
We were next to each other. We were alone together, but there were other people in the house.
Did you talk about with her the reasons you were asking her the question, or how did it come up?
I just blurted it out.
Okay. And what did she say in response?
She said, "No, are you crazy?"
Do you specifically remember that?
Yes, I do.
And during this same time period, you think it was 2016.
Correct.
At some point in the summer or fall of 2016?
Mm-hmm.
Did you continue to be with Monica and Fabio in the same way you had been with them before you had this conversation with her?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity to observe them together after you had this conversation?
Yes.
And what did you observe about their interaction together?
It was always the same.
Ms. Obad, did there come a time in the fall of 2016 that you received some additional information from anyone about Rob Baker being at the Sementilli home?
Yes, I did.
Could you tell us about that?
Jessica told a friend of mine that Rob had spent the night. They were drinking, he was drunk, he threw up, he stayed over, and she told a friend of mine this. And then my friend didn't tell me right away. She told me a few months later.
Did that conversation prompt you to examine what you were observing in terms of Fabio's relationship with Monica?
Their relationship was always the same. I never saw any crack in it, ever.
When you say that you heard this from your friend, can you, time-bound, can you tell us when you think you heard this?
Yes. So I confronted Monica late August, September, and as well around that time, I said something to Fab about it. And then I think it was closer to the holidays because I remember specifically thinking, I got to think about this if I say anything to anybody because the holidays were coming up. And I knew that Fab would be home a lot. So it had to be the end of October or beginning of November that I was told this information.
In terms, Ms. Obad, in terms of when you first asked Monica about whether she was having an affair, and she said, "What, are you crazy?" or something to that effect.
Yes.
Was she upset at you, or did you have any kind of conflict with Monica when
Not at all.
when you confronted her?
Not at all.
And if you told previously in your interviews with law enforcement that you thought that conversation happened as early as May, would that have been incorrect, that first conversation?
Yeah, it was at the end of the summer.
You
I
specifically
know,
remember
absolutely,
it was the end of the summer?
because they came to our house and we were just going to go in the pool before it got too cold to be in the pool. So I remember it being the end of September, end of August, beginning of September.
After September and October of 2016, could you tell us about how often you would see and be with Fabio and Monica?
Oh, once a week.
Was there ever a time that you observed when you were with Fabio and Monica approximately once a week, any conflict or arguments between the two of them?
Never, never.
Did you also see during this time period Fabio alone without Monica?
Well, we were always together, but sometimes Fab and I would sit outside, or my husband and Fab and I would sit outside because Monica would cook, and then I had a baby at that time that she was really into, so she would play with him inside because they would smoke cigars, and I didn't want my child outside.
Did Monica also babysit for you during this time?
She had, yes.
How frequently?
A couple times,
And would her daughters babysit?
yes.
Both of her daughters?
Mostly Jessica.
And that's Fabio and Monica's older daughter?
Correct.
And did you ever at any time bring up the subject of believing that Monica was having an affair again with Monica?
Never.
And did you ever again bring up the subject of you believing Monica was having an affair with Fabio?
Sort of. I said to him, you need to watch those racquetball friends. I don't trust them. And he said in his big way, Deb, do you think? And I said, I think. And then that was dropped.
And when did you have this conversation with Fabio?
I would say in September.
Of 2016?
Correct.
Over the holidays of 2016, Christmas of 2016, New Year's, the beginning of 2017, did you spend any significant time during the holidays with Fabio and Monica?
We spent Christmas Eve together at their house. We had Christmas at my house. We had New Year's at their house.
So the entire holidays you were
Absolutely.
either at their house or they were at your house?
Correct.
And were there others at their house during the holidays when you were over there?
On Christmas Eve, it was just us and a couple other friends, and then his boss, Sal, and I think her name was Meredith, his wife. They ended up coming by on Christmas Eve towards the end.
And how about other friends when they were at your home?
At my home, it was my family, my parents, I think my sister, a couple of girlfriends.
I apologize for this, but I need to bring you and ask you some questions about the day Fabio Sementilli was murdered.
Okay.
Bringing you to the weekend before the Monday he was killed on January 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
Do you specifically remember that weekend?
Well, we didn't see them that weekend because he was going to see Ernie, his friend Ernie, and they were going to come over. So I don't remember what we were doing, so we did not go over there that weekend.
Okay. Do you remember at all whether Fabio was taking any time off of work during this period?
I remember him telling me he was doing a colonoscopy. I think he told me the week before. I felt like it was that Monday he was going to do it, but he didn't do it. Maybe it was Monday or Tuesday, but I felt that he had a colonoscopy he had to do.
You believe that he was supposed to have a colonoscopy, he told you on Monday?
Honestly, I'm not sure if it was Monday or Tuesday. I remember it was that week because I think I saw him the week before, and he said he was going to do it.
Okay. And do you know whether Fabio would normally be at work on a Monday or a weekday?
Yes, he would be.
How do you know that, Ms. Obad?
Because we were really close, and so I'd know, like, hey, I'm gonna stay home today, or Monica would say, oh, come over for dinner on a Monday or something. It wasn't just the weekends we saw each other. Sometimes it could be during the week. So he usually was at work.
Did you have any reason to believe that Fabio, from your conversations with him, was planning ahead of time to take that Monday off of work and stay home?
I do not know that.
And Ms. Obad, did there come a time when you also made arrangements to have Jessica babysit for you either over that weekend or on Monday?
On Monday, for Monday.
Do you recall specifically when you made those arrangements?
I don't. Most likely, I would have called her that Monday because all I was doing was I ran and got Valentine cards for my kids' preschool. So it wasn't like I had something planned. It was sort of a last minute, oh, I need to get some Valentine stuff. So it was not something I had thought about earlier. It wasn't anything specific place I had to be.
So you have a specific memory of that Monday, January 23rd, making arrangements with Jessica that were not pre-planned?
It would have been, I had many times called them casually, like, hey, Max is doing good. Will you come over and watch him for an hour or so? I have to run an errand. So that was the norm, that I would just call her the day of. It was very rare that I called her a week before or anything like that, unless I had to be somewhere specifically.
Do you have a specific memory of arranging for Jessica to come over by calling, say, Monica?
I do not.
Do you know how that day it was arranged that Jessica would come over?
I either called Jessica or I called the house phone, and I do not remember. I didn't text her because I looked at my text, so I hadn't texted her.
When you say you looked at your text, was this after Fabio
Yes.
was killed?
Yes.
And Ms. Obad, when you say that you have a memory of running errands to go get some cards, and we'll get to Jessica coming over, but do you have any specific memory of setting a specific time when you were going to do these errands?
I asked her to be there at 4, but I didn't give her a time when I was going to be done.
Let me interrupt you, Defense Counsel. Let's take our afternoon recess for 15 minutes. The evidence is present. All counsel present, jury, and alternates are present. Ms. Obad, you're still under oath, and you may continue with your direct examination.
Good afternoon again, Ms. Obad. We left off with you describing the events on January 23rd, the day that, 2017, the day that Fabio Sementilli was murdered. You were describing for us having Jessica Sementilli come over and babysit.
Correct.
Prior to Jessica coming over that day to babysit your child, at any point had you ever received any contact from Monica Sementilli asking anything to you about how long Jessica would be babysitting or how long you would be running errands?
No.
You indicated earlier that you had asked Jessica to come there at 4 o'clock.
Correct.
Do you remember, as you sit here today, what time she showed up?
Yes, I do. 3:50.
You specifically remember
I
her
do.
showing up at 3:50?
I do.
You were asked by the police and the prosecutors, I believe, to estimate it at the time close to when Fabio was killed, what time she showed up?
Yes.
Do you remember how long you were at your home after Jessica showed up before you left to run the errands?
I would say about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes max.
after Jessica arrived at your house, Miss Obad, was there ever a time that Monica Sementilli called you on the telephone about inquiring how long you would be out running the errands?
Not at all.
Was there ever a time, Miss Obad, that Monica texted? Were you frequent texters with Monica?
I don't think so.
Okay. Was there any time that day that Monica sent you a text asking you how long you would be
Not at all.
out running errands?
Not at all.
During the time you were out running errands that day, did Monica ever contact you in any way and ask you if you could delay Jessica coming back to the house?
No.
Did she ever ask you if you could estimate for her at all how long you would keep Jessica babysitting that day?
No.
Ms. Obad, could you tell us how you learned that Fabio had been killed?
Isabella called me. I was already driving home because I just went for one quick errand. I was already driving up Tampa when she called me. And we sort of live in between. They live on one side of Tampa and we sort of live on the other side. Bella called and said, get to my house. And I said, why? She goes, just get here. And then I asked again, why? And she said, Dad had a panic attack. Just get here. So I went straight to their house. And I was only a mile away.
You went straight to their house, meaning the Sementilli
Correct.
home. Do you remember what happened when you arrived at the home?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that?
I got on their street and there was, I think it was an ambulance, there was a fire truck. There was just a lot of commotion. And I pulled and I just ran inside the house through the garage. The garage door was open.
When you got into the house, do you recall ever hearing Monica yelling or screaming that somebody had killed Fabio?
Correct.
Tell us about that.
I walked in through the garage and the kitchen's right there, and I sort of walked through the kitchen and I saw some blood on the floor, and I went straight to the dining room, and Monica and Bella were sitting in the dining room facing the backyard, and there was people around, and so I went and I sat down next to them and said, what's going on? And at that time, I honestly thought Fab was still alive. I thought they were working on him, so I was sort of confused.
And what specifically do you recall Monica saying, if anything?
She said somebody killed him, they took the car. It was just, she didn't say complete sentences. It was just a lot of rambling and crying and shaking.
So I was going to ask you about this. Could you describe for us specifically what you saw in terms of Monica's demeanor when you were first at the house?
Hysterical.
And do you recall if she said anything else?
No. After I was there a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, she said, go get Jessica, because Jessica was at my house.
So you think you were there how long
I don't think
before she said this?
I don't think I was there more than 5 minutes.
Okay. And did you go get Jessica?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point, did you later come back and have Monica and the girls come to your house? Did you take them to your house?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Describe, if you can, when you came back. Do you recall?
I came back, I would say, within a half hour, because Jessica left and I had my child, so I had to get the neighbor to watch my child. So I think I called my husband to come home from work, and then I went over there, and I didn't go in the house. I think at that point, they had walked out of the house. They were asking them not to be in the house anymore. So I think I saw the girls, on the driveway.
At some point, did you ever see Monica and the girls go after they were outside to a neighbor's home?
Yes, it got kind of cold that night. I went over to the neighbors and introduced myself and asked if Monica could have a tea or something warm. And then the lady was very nice and said, does she want to come inside? And I said, okay. And then I went and got the girls and Monica, and she was with, I think her name's Elise, and they all went into the house.
Did you go into the house?
I did very briefly.
Now, at any time, Ms. Obad, during this period, did Monica ask you to contact Fabio's employer at any time?
I don't recall.
Did you, at any time during this period, contact Fabio's employer?
I didn't. I think my husband called Sal.
Okay. Did you know at this time where Fabio worked?
Yes,
How did you know that?
because we were good friends. So I knew where he worked.
Had you gotten to know any of his coworkers, or?
I had just met Sal at Christmas Eve.
And that's Sal Maucheri?
Correct.
Okay. And at some point that evening, did you also attempt to leave a voicemail for Fabio's assistant,
yes.
Alicia?
Yes, I did. I did do that.
Tell us about that.
It was just a voicemail. I don't even remember leaving a message, or maybe I said call me, but I didn't give her any information.
Did Monica ask you to call Alicia?
I don't recall. I don't know why, but I feel like I had Alicia's number, and I don't remember why I had Alicia's number.
At the point you called Alicia, had Monica Sementilli ever at any time asked you to find out about life insurance?
No.
Do you recall during this period when Monica was outside or you were briefly over at the neighbor's house, what, if anything, Monica was doing or saying?
I really wasn't next to her. Elise was next to her, and I think Isabella or one of the girls were I wasn't right next to her, and I know she went in another room and spoke to Detective Parshall and his partner.
At some point, did you learn that Monica was being interviewed by the police that evening?
Yes.
How did you learn that?
I was there, and I saw, he said, Detective Parshall said he needed to talk to her, and I said, do you want me to go? Or someone, he goes, no, we need to talk to her alone. So he went with her.
What were you doing while Monica was speaking to the police?
I think I was outside or maybe near the girls. I'm not exactly sure.
Do you have a specific recollection of what the girls were doing during this time period?
They were in shock. I think I think Jessica had a friend that came by. They were just sort of in shock.
Did you observe either of the girls' demeanor during this period? You say they were in shock.
They were in shock.
Talk about Bella. Do you recall whether she was crying, whether she was...
Neither of them were crying. They were just, honestly, in shock. I think we all were just shocked. We didn't know how to react. I wasn't crying either because I was trying to take it in what was going on.
at some point, did you take Monica and Bella and Jessica to your home?
Correct.
Was your husband there at that point, or was it?
Yes.
So the four of you drove to the
Yes.
home? Before you left for your home, did there come a time where you got on the phone with Luigi Sementilli?
Yes. I got on the phone with Luigi at their house. Jessica was talking to Luigi on the phone on the driveway, and I think it got disconnected or something. He called back, and she was trying to explain to him, but I don't think she could really get what was going on either. So she handed me the phone.
So you have a specific recollection of Jessica handing you the
Yes.
phone
Yes,
when you were outside and speaking to Luigi?
correct.
And do you know how long you were on the phone with Luigi?
Very briefly. Maybe 2 minutes max, very briefly.
During that conversation with Luigi, Miss Obad, could you tell us what was said?
Yes. I said to Luigi, explain that your dad has been killed. We don't know anything else. We're not sure what's going on. He's in the backyard. And he was like, what? And I said, I can't tell you anything else. I don't know. I said, I know that he has a life insurance policy for you. You can continue to go to college. Because I knew he was doing his master's, I think, at that point.
How did you know that Fabio had a life insurance policy for Luigi?
Fabio told me.
And when did he tell you this?
I would say maybe 6 months to a year prior, because when we became parents, we got a trust and a will, and so we would talk to Fab because he hadn't done that yet. But he had a life insurance, and we hadn't done that yet. So we sort of swapped stories about what we needed to do and what he needed to do. So I knew, and I thought it was very interesting, because in California, you don't get a life insurance policy if you get a divorce. But he said he had one for his child. So I knew that, and I knew it was around, it was under 2, because he said to me something about it's under 2. So I knew that. And I knew it was just for Luigi when he got divorced. Fab told me that.
Had Monica ever at any time discussed with you a life insurance policy for Luigi?
Never.
Prior to getting on the phone with Luigi that night, did Monica Sementilli ever tell you to talk to Luigi about life insurance?
Never.
Did Monica ever mention that night anything about Luigi's studies or going to school?
She kept saying the word university, because I remember very specific, because I don't use that word university. I always say college. And she kept saying, he has to continue university. The girls have to go to university. She kept using that word university.
When did she say this?
That night outside.
Did she say anything else about university?
She just said,
or?
Luigi's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. His dad takes care of him. He's going to be fine.
Did you ever at any time, well, first of all, Ms. Obad, this conversation you had with Luigi Sementilli, do you have a specific memory of how long it lasted?
2 minutes, 3 minutes, it was so short.
Was there ever a time during that conversation you had with Luigi where you ever either heard from him or said to him anything about stock options?
Never.
Was there ever any time on that phone conversation on the evening Fabio was killed that you spoke to Luigi and discussed anything about giving Luigi money, or that Luigi would give Monica and the girls money from life insurance?
Never.
Would you remember something like that?
Absolutely.
If Luigi, Fabio's son, came into court and testified that you specifically spoke to him that evening about stock options, would that be accurate?
Absolutely not.
And if he testified that you specifically spoke to him about Luigi giving back money from life insurance to Monica or the girls, would that be accurate?
Absolutely not.
So what time do you believe you took took Monica and the girls back to your house with your husband that night?
It had to be after 9, 10. I just don't remember exactly. But it was late.
What happened when you got home? Were you with Monica that whole time?
Yes, pretty much. We came in, I think we got some water or something cold to drink, and Bella wanted to lay down, so she went in the guest room, and Monica wanted to just sit on the couch. And so Jessica sat on the couch next to her. And then she was just crying, and I remember I had to get Kleenex and stuff for her, and I was just sort of in the living room with her, or the family room.
Her Jessica or her Monica?
Monica and Jessica. Jessica actually went in the other room and made a phone call and called her godfather, I think. So then I think I was just sitting with Monica for a while.
Can you describe, do you have a specific memory
Absolutely.
of Monica?
I know exactly where she was sitting in my living room, or my family room.
Okay. There's been testimony repeatedly by relatives of Fabio and some work friends that they didn't see real tears that evening. Do you specifically recall seeing Monica crying, let's say when you got home?
I don't at her house, but I do at my house when she was sitting on the couch, because I remember getting Kleenex, thinking, where's Kleenex? I got to get her Kleenex. I remember being panicked, like I have to find Kleenex.
Could you describe for us any other observations you made about what Monica physically was doing during this period you were observing her?
She wasn't saying much. I don't even remember complete sentences. She wasn't really, she was just sitting there and like rocking and shaking, and she looked horrible. She was just pale, and Jessica was very worried about her, and Jessica was sitting very close to her, you know, on and off. Jessica was in the other room for a minute. It was very, she was in shock, upset, just looked distraught.
How long was it before you all went to sleep that night?
It was really late. I think it was, I don't even remember sleeping that night, but I remember, I think the detectives called us around 5 to come back to her house.
5 in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before the detectives called you to come back to the house, did there ever come a time where you sent a communication to Sal Moncheri?
Yes, I did.
And how did you send that communication?
I
Email,
text him.
call?
I text him.
Okay. Showing you what was marked as People's 89. Showing you page 2 of that exhibit. At around 2:30 on January 24th, would that be 2:30 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. You had a communication with Sal Moncheri,
Correct.
and looking at what's been marked as page 2 of People's 89, did you communicate to him that you had missed a call from his assistant, that's Fabio's assistant,
Correct.
and that you had Monica and the girls at your house?
Correct.
And Sal says that he and the lead team had spoken to Monica and thank you for helping with the girls?
Yes.
and then you give a thumbs up and say, also, can you guys help figure out his life insurance? Monica is asking.
Correct.
Was there any time, Ms. Obad, that Monica had asked you to contact anyone from Fabio's work to ask about life insurance?
No, she did not.
Why did you say this in a text?
Well, I knew that if I asked Sal to help, why would he help me? But if I said, hey, Monica's asking, then I knew I would get a response. And I felt like there was nothing I could do for her. They were hysterical. I didn't know what to do. And I knew she was worried about the girl's health insurance and medical. So I kind of lumped it all in together and said life insurance. She did not ask me to call him or text him. I did that on my own.
Did you end up going over to the house the next day with Monica?
Yes, I did.
And over the course of that next week, did you spend any significant amount of time with Monica, either at her house or elsewhere?
Not much, because her family had came. Her mom and sister were there. And so I felt like I could back off and let them take care of stuff.
Okay. That next day you were at the house, however?
That morning, yes.
And that was Tuesday the 24th?
Correct.
Were any of Monica's family members or Fabio's family members there that day?
At some point, her mom and sister came.
Okay. That was during the 24th?
Correct.
Okay. And then what about Fabio's family? When did they arrive?
I think it was a few days later. I'm not exactly sure, but it definitely wasn't that Tuesday.
Okay. That next day, did you do anything with Monica and the police at the house?
We walked through the house, and I agreed to clean up the murder scene with my husband.
Okay. When you say you agreed to clean it up, did Monica ask you to clean it up?
No, I volunteered.
Okay. How did that come up, Ms. Obad?
Well, it had to be done, and I didn't want anybody in that house.
So who did you suggest it to?
To Parshall.
That's Detective Parshall?
Correct.
And when did that happen?
I actually said it to him that night, because he said to me, we're going to have to get somebody in there to clean it up before they can come in. And I said, don't worry, I'll do it. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yes, my husband and I will do it.
At any time, Ms. Obad, did Monica ever talk to you or ask you to clean up the crime scene?
Never.
During that time at the house, do you remember seeing Monica interacting with the police?
Yes, I mean, because we were kind of walking through the house. The detective walked us through the house.
And do you recall hearing Monica say anything to the police?
I don't recall at that moment.
Do you recall what she was doing, if anything?
She was just out of it. She wasn't really doing anything.
When you say she was out of it, and I know it's difficult because we're asking you to describe not only something 8 years ago, but somebody's physical gestures. Do you have a specific memory that day, the 24th, of what you saw when you looked at Monica with the police?
She just looked vacant. She didn't say much. She just was trying to take it all in. And I was trying to be the mouthpiece for her because she was just like not saying hardly anything.
Did she ask you at any time to be a mouthpiece for her?
No, she did not.
At some point, was there a viewing at a funeral home and a wake at the Sementilli home?
That's Sunday, I think.
That would be
Sunday.
the 29th?
Correct.
Okay. And how did that come about, if you know?
I don't know. I know it was set up, and I knew they were going to have the taco lady that Fab liked at the house after the viewing.
At the time or now, did you have any understanding of who was organizing that event?
I think it was Wella, Cody, whatever the company was at that point. They were taking care of it.
Okay. And did you attend the viewing at the funeral home?
Yes.
Okay. And were you ever around Monica Sementilli at the funeral home?
Yes.
Did you ever hear her talking about the wake or organizing the wake?
No.
What do you recall Monica saying or doing at the funeral home?
Nothing. She was sitting in the front row, and then she would go up to Fab, and then she would sit back down, and she was just crying. She wasn't doing anything, just sitting there, and people would come by and say something to her.
Okay, and again, I hate to have to ask this, but when you saw her crying, did you actually see tears? If there was testimony that there were fake tears or no tears?
I don't remember if there were tears or not either way. I don't remember.
On that day?
On that day, I don't remember. I remember at my house, but I don't remember at that day.
And at some point, you went back to the Sementilli home for the wake?
Yes, yes.
Okay. When you got to the home, was Fabio's family there by that time? Do you recall?
I think I got there before everybody because I wanted to make sure that the taco lady could get in and they could set up. So I think I was one of the first ones there.
Okay. Was Monica at any time participating in the setup or organization of the wake when you got back to the house?
Nothing, no.
Was there anyone else participating that you saw in organizing or setting up the wake?
I think Alicia, his assistant, was there doing stuff.
Did you see any of Fabio's family members participating in the setup or organization of the wake?
Mm-mm.
And were you there with your husband that evening?
Correct.
Okay. And did you stay during the portion where others showed up
Yes.
that evening?
Yes.
The first thing I want to ask you about, there's been some testimony that somehow Monica was not dressed or didn't have herself together or had makeup or her hair done and clothes on at the beginning of the wake. Do you recall seeing Monica specifically before the guests arrived?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us what she looked like?
She looked exactly the same the whole day. I think her, Morella had people come over and do her and the girls' hair. So her hair was done, but she really didn't have hardly any makeup on. She looked ghostly. She didn't look great.
Did she have clothes on?
Yeah, she had a black, just a normal, I think it was a wrap dress maybe, nothing fancy.
At some point, Ms. Obad, did you observe something unusual happen in terms of any individual who came to the wake?
Yes,
Okay. Could you tell us about that?
yes.
What happened?
So the way their house is, if you're in the kitchen or the family room, you could see outside. So everybody was sort of outside, and I don't know why, I just walked inside. I just wanted to get away, I guess. And Monica's mother was standing in the kitchen, and she said something to the effect that guy from racquetball or something here. She goes, go find them. And so I said, who, what? And she said, that guy from racquetball. So I started walking. So if you're in the kitchen, you walk past the dining room. And I didn't even get past the dining room. And Monica and Rob were walking down. There's like 2 steps you can be coming from the front door or whatever, 2 steps. And then they turned to come towards the kitchen.
Okay.
And
So because we don't have,
right,
we have a reporter,
right.
you were pointing in a way saying that you saw Monica and Rob Baker walking from the foyer,
The foyer, yes,
of
yes,
the house
yes.
towards the kitchen?
Correct.
And in order to get there, you saw them walking down a couple of stairs?
2 steps, yes.
Okay. And how did you know it was Rob Baker?
Well, I had known that there was a Matt who was a trainer, and that Rob was the coach. So when Monica's mom said something about the racquetball, I assumed it was the guy Rob.
Okay. But you had not met him previously, or you had?
Never.
Okay. And, I'm sorry, continue. What else did you
So
observe?
as they were walking the stairs, they were coming towards me, and it was so odd because he was like, I never saw his face because his face was just plastered into her ear, and and they were just walking, and I specifically was staring at her lips just to see if she was talking back to him or anything, and nothing. She didn't say anything, and he was just kind of guiding her. And as they were coming closer to me, they turned around. I mean, he was just leaning into her, so they leaned, and they went behind, because behind is the family room, and they went over and sat on the couch in the family room.
Okay. Now, at this time, I think you previously told us that you had, earlier that late summer or fall, confronted Monica about suspecting that she was having an affair, correct? And that at some point in September or October, you learned from her friend that Rob Baker had been overnight at the Sementilli home, right?
Yeah, October, November, I found that part out.
So at that point, when you learned that, you suspected that Monica was having an affair with Rob Baker, correct?
Yes. I mean, I wasn't 100% sure if it was Rob or Matt, but when I saw them that night, it clicked for me that it had to be Rob.
But you were such good friends with Monica, you never said anything to Monica?
No.
And you were close with Fabio, you never said anything about your suspicions to Fabio?
Just to watch those racquetball gym friends.
And when you observed that this Monica and this Rob Baker walking towards the kitchen, and you said you were specifically looking at Monica's mouth.
Absolutely.
Was there any time that you observed when you were looking at Monica, her speaking or responding in any way to Fabio?
Nothing.
I mean, to Baker?
Nothing.
And, Your Honor, if I may mark, with the court's permission, as defense 636, I believe, in order.
Page 636, yes, what is it, please?
It's a photograph, I believe, that was previously marked by the people.
All right.
Do you recognize this photo, Ms. Obad?
Yes, I took it.
Okay. You took it when?
After Monica and Rob walked outside.
Okay. So, showing you, well, let me ask you this. So, when you saw Monica walking towards the kitchen and Rob speaking into her ear, did I hear you say that you thought he was leaning into her?
He was leaning into her, yes.
Okay. Was she leaning into him?
No.
Or who was?
No, she was just walking straight, like dazed and confused. I mean,
Was she looking at him at any time?
No, she was just looking straight ahead, just kind of out of it, like a weird out of it look.
And where did they go as they were heading towards the kitchen? Did you see?
Well, then they turned around and went behind and sat in the family room.
In the family room.
Correct.
And is that connected to the dining room in
Yeah,
any way?
it's all one long hallway.
Okay. And if there was testimony that the dining room or the family room was dark at the time, do you have any specific recollection of whether there were lights on?
There was, I think they had one lamp. I think there was, it wasn't bright, but it wasn't dark. They had a lamp, it was on.
And did anybody else, in your observations, go to the family room, living room?
Yes. When this has happened, I was still standing in the kitchen trying to figure out what to do. Morella happened to be walking into the kitchen.
Okay, let me stop you. That's Morella Sementilli,
Correct.
Fabio's sister?
Correct.
Okay.
Because the door's right there, and I was standing. She walked in, and I said to her, I need your help. We got to get rid of this guy. And she's like, okay. So I said, let's turn on the TV or say something. So we walked towards them, And then Morella and I were like, oh, let's put the TV on, see if LAX is okay. There was something going on at LAX that day because they were leaving in the next day or so. And then we sort of talked like, I don't know, just about the TV. And then Morella said something to Monica. And Morella sat down next to Monica. And that's when I left. I walked away. And then Morella was talking to Monica. She said something to her in Italian, which later she said, people are looking at you, go outside. Something to that effect. And I left. I walked away.
Where did you go when you
I
walked
went
away?
outside.
Okay. And did there come a time thereafter that you saw Monica again?
Yes, when they were sitting by this fire, and I waited for them to sit down, and I took 2 pictures of him.
Okay. Now, Ms. Obad, I heard you say, I think, that you told Morella Sementilli, we got to get him out of here.
Yes.
Why would you say that? Why did you say that to Morella?
His energy was really dark for me. It felt really out of place, and I think in my brain I was trying to put everything together, that this is the guy she's probably having an affair with, and he just had a really dark energy, and it really took me back.
Other than that dark energy, at that time, did you have any reason to believe that this person was somehow involved in the killing of Fabio Sementilli?
I probably thought that after a few days. I probably thought that.
Okay. After a few days, let's put that in a place. That night, was there something that, other than this dark energy, that made you suspect or believe that this person had been involved in the killing in some way of Fabio?
I don't think I thought that at that moment.
Okay. But you were concerned enough that you took a photograph at some point outside, correct?
Yes, 2 photographs.
And this is one of the photographs you took?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And showing you Monica Sementilli in this photo, is that how Monica appeared to you that evening?
Yes.
And that was from the start of the wake until this moment?
Yeah, she looked the same from the whole time.
Okay.
We're going to take our afternoon adjournment until tomorrow